Hi everyone. In this tutorial I'm going to show you how I did this stained glass inspired tumbler. All the products that I use will be linked in the description box below the tutorial, below the video. So I'm excited to bring you another tutorial after being off of YouTube for 6 months, almost 6 months. It's been a rough few months. July of last year, my 30-year-old son was in a horrible car accident, and he is now paralyzed from the waist down. He has a fiance and 3 young daughters, all under the age of 4. So we're all just trying to adjust and be there for him and be supportive. So it's been hard, but we'll get there. So I hope that y'all will, and as you notice, I had to change my workspace. So during the tutorial, you will see the camera angles change a couple of times. And I'm just trying to figure out the best way to film. So bear with me, and I hope that y'all will watch the tutorial. I hope you like it, and stay until the end for close-ups of the cup. So let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to mix up some epoxy. This is 15 milliliters of KS Resin Liquidy Split. It's a fast set epoxy. Once I have that mixed up, I'm going to add some glow powder. I absolutely love this glow powder. It is my favorite to work with. My cup has been spray painted with Rust-Oleum 2X Ultra Matte White spray paint. And now I'm applying the epoxy, and then once I have that on there, I will hit it with the torch, and then I'm going to run my UV flashlight over it, and this will activate the glow so that I can see if there's any problem areas that I need to fix. And right there, that's a problem area. I need to fix that. But I absolutely love the glow. It just reminds me of looking at the moon. So at first I tried fixing it by just trying to even it out with my hand, and that just made it worse. So I immediately mixed up another 15 milliliters of epoxy, added some more glow powder to it, and then applied it to the cup. And then the same thing as before, hit it with the torch and then run the UV flashlight over it. So it's not perfect, but it's better than it was before. And just look at that glow. So while this is setting up, we're going to go over and work on your image of choice. So the one that I'm using, I got on Etsy. It's an actual stained glass pattern, so it's not a cut file. So I'm going to upload it to picsvg.com, and it will immediately convert it to an SVG. So there is the original, and here is the new cut file. So just download it onto your computer and then open it in whatever program you're going to be using. So I'm in Design Space. The image is ready to go. It's ready to be cut. All you have to do is size it to fit your cup. So you want to make sure that you have your epoxy. You measure after you put your epoxy on. And then hit make it, and it's ready to go. So now I'm going to apply transfer tape to it. The vinyl that I'm using is a matte black from Tech Wrap. I'm using a 22 ounce fatty. I'm just trimming off the excess transfer tape, and I don't know why I left that strip on there because I'm about to cut it off anyway. Right here I'm going to remove a strip of the backing paper, and then I'm going to reattach it, and then I'm going to wrap it around the cup and get it positioned where I want it, and then remove that strip, stick it down to the cup, and then start taking the rest of the backing paper off. And every once in a while you're going to have those stubborn pieces of vinyl that don't want to release from the backing paper, so just work in small sections and take your time. I did have a slight overlap where the two ends met, so I just trimmed it with my X-Acto knife. I guess you could consider this a type of burst, but since stained glass inspired me to do this cup, I wanted to do everything stained glass. So I used the stained glass pattern, and I'm going to use stained glass paints. But if you can find a burst pattern that would work for this, that's awesome. And you don't have to use the paints that I'm about to use. You could use alcohol inks or alcohol ink markers. You just want something that's transparent so that the glow will show through. This is a really fun and easy cup to make. So these paints I got on Amazon, and again, they're transparent. So because they are transparent, you don't want to put them on too thick, because then they will lose that transparency. So you want to just do a thin, even coat. So just like with a burst, you're going to pick a color and you're going to pull all the vinyl off of that color and just do each color until you reach the end. So as you can see here, I'm brushing the paint on, but then as I started working on the cup, I ended up, because I had to switch brushes, so I ended up just like dabbing it or pouncing it on there, and I actually like the way it looked that way because it gave it kind of that textured look that you see in some stained glass. And as you can see, I'm not trying to be careful. I'm not trying to keep the paint off of the vinyl because some of those areas are really small and it's hard. But removing the paint from the vinyl is very easy. And also, if you make a mistake, say you paint the wrong color and a color in the wrong spot, I was able to just take an alcohol wipe and wipe it off and then paint the right color. But they're very easy to work with. You can mix them, if you need a lighter color or a darker color, you can mix them. They dry very quickly. But again, you don't have to use these. If you use alcohol inks, just make sure that your vinyl is pressed down onto the cup, because the alcohol inks can leak under the vinyl, so make sure that everything is pressed down. So now that I have the whole cup painted, now I'm going to clean up the vinyl. So to do this, I'm just going to take the tip of my X-Acto knife and just gently scrape it off, and it comes right off. It comes off very easily. I also discovered that you can use a UV light. I wanted to test the glow under the colors, so I held my UV light over the cup and I could see some paint on the vinyl that I had missed. So a UV light will help you to see any areas that you might have missed. So now I am going to apply some epoxy on the cup. I'm going to add, I believe this is Stone Washed from Tim Holtz. Just add a drop into my epoxy. I did seal the cup before I did this. I sealed it 2 times with Krylon triple thick spray. And as you can see, the bottom is black. So what I did was, after I sealed it, I taped the cup off and then I spray painted the bottom black. So I only put, I think this was 20 milliliters of epoxy. I did a very thin coat because I didn't think that I was going to have to do any sanding, but around the bottom there, I could feel some rough spots, and I didn't want to sand because the epoxy was thin. So I'm going to do another layer of epoxy. This one is 15 milliliters. And I figured since I was going to have to add another layer, I might as well add a little bit of sparkle. So this is Ghosted. If you're not familiar with Ghosted, it's a clear, extra fine glitter that I sell on my website. And it just gives you a very subtle sparkle. I don't know why there were some rough areas, because all that's down there is paint and spray paint. So at that point there was no glitter, so I'm not sure where the rough areas came from, but it is what it is. So here's a close-up of the cup so you can see that pretty little sparkle from Ghosted. So now that I have that second layer, I'm going to go ahead and do a very light sand. It's almost like I'm buffing it out, because I'm using a 2000 grit sandpaper. So it's really, really fine. And I'm just going to smooth out any areas that need to be smoothed out. And while I'm at it, I figured I might as well go ahead and clean up the rim. So I'm going to use my generic Dremel. It's a Walmart brand. I honestly don't even like using this thing, but with everything being moved around in here, I couldn't find my other sandpapers. So, but I honestly don't even like using this. Alright, so now that we've got it sanded, we're going to get it cleaned up, and then we're going to add what I thought was going to be the last layer of epoxy. I ended up finding some lit on the cup after this layer dried, so I had to do another light sand and then another layer of epoxy. But hopefully this will be the last one for you. And that is it. The cup was done. Like I said, this was a really fun cup to make. It's really easy, not a lot of steps to it. And I love the way it looks. And you don't have to use a stained glass pattern. If you could find like a coloring book page, you get almost the same effect, or a burst pattern. So there you go.